Hello, and welcome to Backyard Sportscast, Episode 2. I'm your host, Dirty Jake, and here with me I have quite a few people here today. First off, my co-host, Danny. Say hi to the fans, Danny.
Hello.
We have a returning guest, Joe Campoamor. You may remember him from the college football preview special.
Glad to be back.
Yes. And then we have our senior analyst, Frank Ambrosino.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Glad you can join us. So, we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. A lot of stuff happened this weekend. A lot of stuff, Danny, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
Yeah, so
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about our weekend recap that we have.
Yeah, before we get into that, though, I think we should talk about, since the last time we posted everything, we now have a Facebook, and we have Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel.
I was going to get at the end. Save the plugs for the end.
Okay.
But yeah, since you reminded me, we do have a Twitter account, at BYSC Podcast. I did mention it last episode. It's also on the front of the YouTube episode. We have Facebook, which is Backyard Sportscast. That is connected to our YouTube channel, Backyard Sportscast. Nice. So go ahead and give us a follow. We do have almost 60 followers thus far, within a week, on Facebook. So thank you for joining us. Got some representation all around the country. Got some people in the Carolinas, California. We have even someone from Jamaica. So, thank you for joining in. I hope you enjoy our American sports.
Yeah. And if you're looking for me on Twitter, that's at Dubdish. That's DUBDISCH.
And I am at AT Jacob Camp. So ATGJ. Oh, gee, good God. ATJACOBCAMP. No, I just had too much to drink.
And our guests also have Twitters.
Yeah, I'm at JoboCamp12. It's JOBOCAMP12.
Don't question him on his nickname. Mm-hmm. And senior analyst Frank has forgotten his handle, so he's looking that up real quick.
It's at BigTank_23.
There you go. Don't forget the underscore.
So we can recap.
Okay. We will start with the Mayweather-McGregor fight.
Let us start. So you won our little...
I did. We didn't keep track of it anywhere. We're going to have to find a way to keep track of all these things. But I did have it going later than round 5, I believe. I think I had round 6 through 12. Jake had round 1 through 5. And it ended in the 10th round via TKO, technical knockout for you youngsters. And Mayweather was the winner of that contest. For me, it was a fun fight. I enjoyed watching it. Did you guys enjoy watching the fight? I know you were all here.
Yeah, I was a little on the inebriated side, but I did enjoy it. Okay. It was a good fight. Mayweather was, if you're not used to boxing, Mayweather was a little light on the punch throwing at the beginning, but that is his play style. So McGregor was clearly not going for points or anything else other than just to knock that guy out.
Yeah. To me, McGregor won the first 3 rounds. I think he took another round, maybe 5th or 6th. And going into the 10th, I had it 5 rounds to 4 in Mayweather's favor. I definitely thought if it went all 12, Mayweather was going to take the fight, but seeing him get to round 10 was kind of a surprise. In case you didn't see the fight, like I said, it was a technical knockout in the 10th round. At the time of stoppage, there were the 3 judges that were scoring the fight. One of them had the fight 87-83, with McGregor winning the first 3 rounds like I did, had Mayweather winning the 9th round 10-8, and then the rest of the rounds went to Mayweather, which is understandable, a little bit more towards what I think most people had it. Then the other 2 judges. The other 2 judges only had McGregor winning the first round. One had it scored 89-82, and the other one had it 89-81, because they had a 10-8 in the 9th round as well. This is ridiculous.
What match were they watching?
I don't know. If you were watching, I think Mayweather threw a total of 12 punches through the first 2 rounds, so I don't understand how McGregor couldn't have at least taken the first 2 rounds for sure. This is my whoa, bro section.
Whoa,
yeah, whoa, bro. That's my section of the week, because that's ridiculous. That scoring's awful. So for the stoppage, did you guys like it? Did you guys think it was too soon? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm always an advocate of letting the boys play. I hate it when if a football player hits someone way too hard and they throw a flag on them. But in this case, he got hit after hit, and his arm, he wasn't even in any kind of defense mode. Looked like he was just falling back. It was over.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they have to protect the fighters at some point.
So that was the fight, and that was a good wrap-up. So the next thing we wanted to talk about in the weekend is if you were one of the 13,000 people who has invested interest in arena football, they had the Arena Bowl number 30. That was Saturday. And had a good matchup with the Tampa Bay Storm versus the Philadelphia Soul. Soul ended up winning 44-40 in a showstopper right there. Close game. This is the fourth team in Arena Bowl history to win back-to-back bowls. The Storm's Kendrick Ings scored the first points of the game by returning a missed field goal for 57 yards for a touchdown, because this field is only 50 yards long. That is the longest play in Arena Bowl history, for those of you who like to hear about those kind of stats in the Arena League. But if you haven't watched Arena football before, you should definitely check it out. There's all 6 teams in the league. Pretty interesting stuff. You can run into walls and stuff and be all right. The coaches are on the field. It's just a fun time, So that's my little bit on the Arena Bowl.
I will say I haven't seen that 57-yard touchdown, but I am interested in looking up the video to see what that looked like, because that is pretty impressive. That's the entire field, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think the field's 60 yards long, so 57 yards is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So and it's a small field too to get around all those players and stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, check it out. And for the last thing that we had for the weekend recap is going over the games of college football that we had in Week 1, Part A. So the first game that we had up was Stanford versus Rice in Australia. And Stanford looked pretty good. Chris, 14 for 24, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns. Good job being a quarterback. Again, it was Rice, so I was expecting him to do good. But yeah. Do good. The running back, Love, he had 13 carries for 180 yards and a touchdown, so he was looking pretty good, making everyone forget about that last running back who was there. I forgot his name.
Yeah, 62-7. I mean, there's not much really to say except, good time for the backups to get some.
USF and SJSU, San Jose State University. Off to a slow start. I did say last week I was going to be pissed off if San Jose State scored more than 3 times, which they ended up doing, but not until the end of the game. They did start off with their 3 scores pretty quickly. 16-0 USF was down. And then USF scored 42 unanswered points to win the game. Flowers, 11 for 23, 212 yards with 2 touchdowns in the air. And also carried the ball 18 times for 70 yards with a touchdown. Looks like he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, see, I disagree with you there.
Oh.
I mean, Quentin Flowers came in, everybody's saying that he might be a Heisman candidate this year. 11 for 23 against San Jose State. That's not going to get it done. I mean, it's great that he scored 3 times. He had 280 total yards, which is okay. I mean, but he played the whole game, so it's not super impressive of a performance. Maybe he's a little rusty from last year.
Yes, they definitely started off slow. I mean,
what impressed me about them, they ran the ball 74 times as a team. They had over 100 plays on offense. I don't know if we'll see that again this whole year. 100 plays on offense, and they ran the ball 74 times for 315 yards. But Jesus, 100 plays on offense. I think Stanford may have run 55, if that. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get 100 when your running back, Ernest Johnson, had 22 carries for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, 22 carries from one running back, and he's probably sore the next day.
Yeah. I mean, the only bright spot
for the quarterback.
Yeah. The only bright spot for San Jose State was their receiver, Bailey Gaither. 6 receptions, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's a good day, especially when your team only scored 22 points.
Yeah. And then there was some other games that happened. Wasn't really a big deal, so we should just move on. Unless you want to talk
about wow, okay. I mean, there is one game that we don't really need to touch on. And BYU beat Portland State 20-6. There really is nothing to say about that game. There were no impressive stats. BYU should have won that game by about 30. One of the other games, the first game of the year, actually, Colorado State 58, Oregon State 27. It was a competitive game up until about the middle of the third quarter. Colorado State started to pull away. Their quarterback, Nick Stevens, threw for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. They had a defensive touchdown by linebacker Trey Thomas, who also had 7 tackles and half of a sack. Oregon State's best player, Ryan Nall, running back. 15 carries, 115 yards, and a touchdown. I think he ran for about 10 yards in the second half, though, since they were down big. Most exciting game of the weekend, Hawaii and UMass. We talked about it last week. Last year's game, 46-40, was an entertaining game, and this one didn't disappoint either. Hawaii won the game 38-35 on a touchdown with 48 seconds left by a pass from quarterback Drew Brown to wide receiver Matuisela Unga. Unga. And my player of the week is wide receiver John Ursua from Hawaii. 12 receptions, 272 yards, and a touchdown.
Jesus.
272 yards is a good season for some of these players, and he got it in one game. So
He was the offense.
hats off to Hawaii on that game one.
Why?
That's a good fantasy performance right there.
One touchdown?
272 yards. Think of the bonus points, Frank. Think of the bonus points.
Let's stop at 250.
Now let's talk about baseball. The majority of our guests are pretty big baseball fans. Both have respective careers in the baseball world. One of them's an assistant coach at a prestigious tech school in the great land of Tampa Bay. The other one is an assistant softball coach, also in the Brandon area, which is outside of Tampa. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say about Giancarlo.
I don't know if you guys have been watching baseball lately, but this man's on a tear. Hitting 380, 18 home runs, 37 RBIs, slugging a 970 in August. That's ridiculous.
That is quite impressive.
He's trying to walk away with the MVP and not even going to make the playoffs. Most likely.
Yeah, the second guy in second place in home runs this year in the MLB, not just in the NL or AL. Second place in the MLB has 37, 14 behind Giancarlo Stanton. So that's the kind of year he's having right now.
It's ridiculous. He hit his 51st last night, and probably as we speak, hitting another one. But moving on to a different player who's out of this world, Sale recorded his 17th double-digit strikeout performance last night, while also becoming the quickest player to hit their 1500th K. I mean, he's incredible. Just watching him pitch. Just the movement on his fastball, the control he has with his slider.
His dreamy eyes.
Okay. I mean, it helps he is from Lakeland. But, I mean, he's just... The numbers he's putting up is insane. I don't know how he doesn't throw his arm out of socket.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he stays healthy. He does have an awkward delivery, but he beat the record held by Kerry Wood. He beat it by 13 innings. Other people on the list were Pedro Martinez, Max Scherzer, and I believe Randy Johnson was on that list as well. So he's in good company there.
On both accounts, Giancarlo Stanton, there were some questions last year as to if he could stay healthy long enough to make himself worth the money that he's getting paid in that contract, that massive contract he signed. And this goes to show exactly what the talent that the Marlins saw and what a lot of us knew that he could do. We kind of talked about this a little bit before the season. If there was somebody that could hit 50 home runs, it was going to be Stanton. He just needed to make sure that he wasn't striking out enough to make sure that and make contact to get there. And you can see now he's made adjustments at the plate the second half of the season.
And it would be interesting to see what that new front office does. A lot of talks with the winter meetings in the offseason on whether or not they're going to try to trade that contract or not. It'd be really interesting on whether or not you'd be able to keep that fan base if you get rid of that star player of that caliber.
Yeah, they've already sold this team off once after they've been successful. They have to build this team around Giancarlo. If they don't, they might as well just move the team out of Miami.
Yeah, and I mean they're winning games. It's not like they're last in the league and
they trade
wins.
Giancarlo, they'll be last.
But if they trade, right, that's what I'm saying. My point is that the foundation, I think, can be there. If they get down to the bones, they don't need to get rid of Giancarlo to make themselves successful. It does hurt that they're in the Nationals division. It doesn't help that they're playing one of the best teams in the league in the regular season.
Yeah, but I mean they're also going against one of the worst divisions in baseball right now. They get the Braves, the Phillies,
and that too, which is all the more reason why they should be able to turn it around a little bit quicker. Should they not dish out Giancarlo? I'm somebody that thinks that the new ownership should keep him around.
Yeah.
As for Sale, I mean, the guy, it is pretty cool. Straight out, coming out of Lakeland, Florida, he's close to us, and a product of FGCU. To come up to the major leagues and do what he's done in a few short years has been very impressive. So.
And let us not forget about those Dodgers. 116 wins, is that possible?
No.
My question for you guys, do they burn out before postseason?
Well, they're already starting to burn out. They've lost their last 3 games. Well, I know you don't think that's something, but it's their longest losing streak of the year. Tied with it, I believe. Could be wrong. But, I mean, they have to go 25-7 to tie the record, 26-6 to break. They have Bellinger coming back. They have Kershaw coming back. They have Wood coming back. they're getting the pieces right, but to only lose 6 games when you can probably be resting your players, setting up your rotation for the playoffs down the stretch, resting your bullpen. You got one of the best closers. You don't want to throw him out there. I mean, maybe if you're getting close, those last 2 games, maybe you go for it. But other than that, I just think it's out of reach to think that they have another stretch like this coming this late in the season.
Yeah, I think they end up somewhere between 105, 110. I don't think they break the record, and I also will go on the record right now and say that they do not make it to the World Series. I think they're going to choke, probably in the NLCS.
You heard it here first, folks.
Heard it here first. Speaking of time, it is that time of year for baseball fans. We're getting ready for September, and that means we only have about a month of baseball left before the postseason. And I just want to run down and give everybody a quick postseason update on the divisions and the wild card, just so everybody's keeping up on the division races.
Get ready for another list by Danny Dishner.
It'll be a quick one, I promise.
Just make sure you know how to say all the names right.
Okay, I've got it this
I
time.
don't need another soccer fiasco.
In the AL East, the Boston Red Sox are up 4 games on the New York Yankees. Cleveland's up 6.5 on the Minnesota Twins in the Central. Out west, you have the Houston Astros up 12 games on the Angels. For the NL, we've got the Nationals up 14 games on Miami, pretty much locking up that division. In the Central, the Chicago Cubs, the reigning champions, are only up 3.5 games on Milwaukee. In the West, the Dodgers that we just talked about are up 18 games on Arizona, and right now Arizona is in the wild card, so Dodgers having quite the season. There's only about 28, 29-ish games left, so I believe the Dodgers are going to wrap that up probably by the end of next week. For the wild card in the AL, the Yankees are up 3.5 on the Angels and 4 games on the Orioles. And Minnesota has the second wild card right now, which is pretty impressive for them. And they're up 1 game on the Angels and 1.5 on Baltimore. In the NL, you got Arizona and Colorado both from the West in the wild card right now, and they're up 6 and 4 on Milwaukee, respectively. So it looks like both the wild card teams are going to come out of the West this year. That's all we got for baseball. We're all caught up on the postseason update now.
Yeah, speaking of, I know we were talking about Giancarlo's good bonus and contract that he signed. He's not the only person that got a lot of money on a contract recently. How about we go ahead and bring it on over to the NFL and talk about Matthew Stafford and his 5-year extension for $135 million. What do you guys think?
The highest paid player.
Ladies
or
and
maybe
gents.
highest paid quarterback.
Ladies and gents, if you play fantasy, your quarterback 2 is the highest paid quarterback in the league. So congratulations.
Somebody's QB1 that's in the room.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a joke. I've had Matthew Stafford on my fantasy teams the last few years, and he's always been pretty consistent. He was quickly became my starter over Andrew Luck in a couple of my teams because Andrew Luck likes to be hurt all the time. Thank you.
He's made of glass.
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely a good quarterback, but I mean, $50 million signing bonus, $60.5 million guaranteed. Let me drop some stats on you guys. So his 2016 stats, 65% completion percentage.
Which is good.
Yep. 4,300 yards passing,
Also
24
good.
touchdowns, 10 picks.
Yeah, it's not bad.
All right. So then you look at Brady, which a lot of people say is the best. 67% completion, 3,500 yards passing. He had 28 Go ahead.
No, continue. I was just going to, when you got done, I was just going to mention that Brady did serve a suspension last year.
And I'm about to get here. So he had 3,500, so he did have less than Stafford. But keep this in mind, he played 4 games less. He had 28 touchdowns, so 4 more than Stafford in 4 less games. And he only threw 2 picks instead of Stafford's 10.
Yeah,
and he's getting paid more than this guy.
I mean, I think that's a decent comparison. If Brady played those 4 games, he probably catches Stafford in the interception department.
You think he threw 2 in 12 games? And you think he's going to throw 8 more in 4?
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't you say that he was 2 behind Stafford?
No, he threw 2 interceptions.
I apologize.
Idiot.
That's fine. I mean, I still don't think the comparison holds any water. Just because Brady, like you said, is the greatest of all time. If his contract was up this year, if he was getting an extension, he would get more than Stafford. So, I mean, it's really not a good idea to compare contracts when it's different years. And you're going to pay what you're going to get what you pay for. And with quarterbacks lately, everybody's getting more money. So the next quarterback that gets a deal, be it Kirk Cousins or whoever else, is going to get more money than Stafford. And it's just going to continue on and on and on.
But even if you don't look at those stats, this guy has no playoff wins. and he's getting paid more than any other quarterback.
I get that, but he's been to the playoffs 3 of the last 6 years for Detroit, and Detroit was nowhere near the playoffs when they picked him.
So he clearly can't win playoffs. He's had plenty of opportunities, and he can't win them.
Yeah, but he gets the team there, and that's what they need. They need somebody that's going to get them to the playoffs and keep them
Georgia's head coach, had
so
pretty good
banged
seasons
up.
every year, still got fired.
College is different from the NFL.
He's so banged up at the end of the year. He's got broken thumbs, hurt shoulders that he's still trying to play through. I mean, sometimes it's not his fault getting hit. I mean, yeah, sometimes you have to win the big one to get paid, but I mean, you're gonna pay a premium for that franchise quarterback, and you can't name another player on that team that deserves a franchise tag or anything like that he does. I mean, he's the heart and soul of that team, and you want to keep him around. They saw what happened. Calvin Johnson left for what he thought was medical reasons, things like that. Didn't see himself in the league any longer, so you want to lock him up, make sure no one else can take him from you.
I get it. I mean, he's a solid quarterback. I just think so. Kind of a lot.
Most quarterbacks are not worth the money they're getting. Tyrod Taylor, for instance.
Most of professional sports players don't deserve it.
Okay, well, that's true. That's fair. Glennon over in Chicago didn't deserve that kind of money. Even Trubisky, the rookie, got a huge rookie contract, which I don't think he's deserving of, as he's a rookie.
And he's not even starting this year.
Yeah.
To start the season. And
You'll probably see him.
It remains to be seen. I for one, also believe that he will be thrown out there when they're 2-8. So
I just want to throw this out there. If Matthew Stafford's agent could get in touch with me, getting a $50 million signing bonus, if you could give me a $2 million signing bonus for, anything, I'll gladly pay you 0.1% or whatever you get paid. I don't care. Jesus, $50 million signing bonus. You know how much? You know what I could do with $50 million?
Make a better podcast than this.
Make a better podcast than this. That's exactly right.
Now, one thing I will say to kind of back up Stafford a little bit, because we were talking about his numbers. Since 2008, when he entered the league, he averages 278 passing yards per game, which is more than any other quarterback that's been playing since 2008. And I thought that was an interesting stat, because you're talking about somebody that's in a pass-heavy offense, and so it's hard to make that comparison. You need to make that out front say it is a passing offense. It's true, but the fact that he's been able to stay healthy since his first couple of years when he got hurt quite a bit, and still been able to turn around a Detroit team that was deplorable before 2010. I think it's pretty impressive, and I'm happy for the guy.
I think, like we talked about, everybody that gets a contract from here on out is going to get a little bit more money. And, you always take the risk with injuries and whatnot.
Yeah, I just hope that it's not really a waste of money like some of these people that are now out for a whole year due to preseason. So how about we start talking about those injuries, huh? Yeah. Quite a few this preseason. It's going to stirring up some drama.
We still got 1 week to go. I don't think we'll see many starters in week 4, But, like you said, there's been a couple of big-name injuries. Only 3 people out for the year that are really impacting fantasy teams and, making large impacts on their respective NFL teams. But there have been 2 injuries that I made note of that were almost really bad. One being the OBJ, which we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. He could miss week 1 still with his ankle injury, which I thought was going to be a knee injury because it looked really bad when we saw it live. But, if you're looking for a replacement for OBJ, look at Sterling Shepard and Brandon Marshall. They're both going to have great years.
Even with that, Marshall's been, I think, a hamstring injury. Sterling had a little ankle injury, so I'd stay away from the Giants' receiving core for right now until those questions start to be answered.
Yeah, and I have Eli Manning as my other quarterback.
You're going to be fine. He's going to throw the ball 79 times a game, and it's going to be okay. He's going to throw 6 interceptions a game, but just be ready. He's going to throw 3 touchdowns.
So we talked a little bit about Danny and his lack of choosing good teams to support. Right. So he brings up, he's a Bills fan, and
you son of a bitch.
They've been going through some hardships lately, more than usual. Tyrod Taylor, concussion.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be back for week 1. We haven't heard much about how he's doing in the concussion protocol yet. They're kind of keeping that under wraps. His only replacement right now on the depth chart, rookie 5th-round pick, Nathan Peterman out of Pittsburgh. Our third-string quarterback, TJ Yates, is also injured. So that's where we're at in Buffalo. We've got a rookie and nobody else right now.
How much sleep have you lost over the Bills?
I haven't lost a ton of sleep because we're never even close to the playoffs, so I don't have to worry about it come week 16, 17 every year. But I will say that if this drought continues for 10 more years, somebody's going to die.
You heard it here first. All right, so moving on to a team that actually matters. Julian Edelman. He's out for the year.
Yeah, a lot of replacements there. People are saying Malcolm Mitchell, Chris Hogan, but the guy that fits Edelman's more play style is more of Amendola. I think Amendola will be... I think he'll step in as probably a number 2 slot. He'll be the slot guy.
I have a question for you, Frank, knowing that you do appreciate Tom Brady and all that he does. Do you think that Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola are very similar players?
I think they're very similar.
Okay,
players.
so you think that this is not a huge loss for them?
Not a huge loss.
Okay.
All right, so 2 more to kind of bulldoze through. Cameron Meredith, wide receiver for the Bears, towards ACL. He's going to be out for the year. Looking for Kevin White and Victor Cruz to replace.
And all you physical therapists out there, this last one, I'm not really sure where... I mean, I know these injuries are in the knee, but Spencer Ware's out for the year with a PCL tear and an LCL tear. Not really sure what either of those are, but his replacements are Kareem Hunt and Charkandrick West, if you're looking for fantasy options.
A lot of people have been reaching for Kareem Hunt in these past drafts. Some have him above Lamar Miller, right around the Ezekiel Elliott range of the suspension. Been seeing a lot of reaching for him, which Andy Reid has produced top 10 running backs the last 5 or 6 years, no matter who he had back there. So I think Kareem Hunt could be a good replacement for him, and for your dynasty owners, he'll probably be a good pick from here on out.
Last thing we're going to talk about in the NFL for this evening, just a little bit of news coming out of the NFL this week in preseason camps. The Cleveland Browns named Deshaun Kaiser, the rookie from Notre Dame, their starting quarterback. It is going to be his rookie season, so obviously he does not have any stats to really talk about. In the preseason, he's completed about 50% of his passes, and he's got 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception in 3 games. Nothing really impressive. I think against the Bucs, he was 6 of 18, and it was after that game that they decided to name him the starter. So not sure what they saw that game that said, all right, let's move on with him. But, I mean, maybe Brock Osweiler really isn't the answer in Cleveland.
Yeah, he's looking to get traded too.
Well, they've been talking about trading him since they got him, and I don't think anybody wants him at this point. So, and then the only other one in the NFL this week, Jacksonville names Blake Bortles their starting QB for Week 1. Chad Henne's still in the wings, though. Probably, maybe starting by Week 3. We'll see. Depends on how Bortles does in these first 2 games. Just a quick note on Blake: 11-34 in 3 seasons as a starter. That's not going to get you a job anywhere when you get released by the Jaguars halfway through this season.
The record's not all on him. His defense wasn't quite there in his first couple years. I think he had a good year 2 years ago when his running backs were there for him. Didn't have much of a running game. We'll see if Fournette can offer him some versatility and help out that offense. Have a bounce back year. That's what I'm predicting, a bounce back year for Bortles.
I'm going the opposite. He really needs to get his completion percentage up and get those turnovers down. 22 turnovers last year. Ugh.
The thing is, I don't think, and I think the Jaguars feel the same way, as Chad Henne's not the future for the Jaguars. And I think that they want Bortles to win the job and take them to the promised land rather than having to settle for a career backup quarterback that's going to hopefully get them to an 8-8 season, and then they got to draft a quarterback next year. So
I promise you, if they do not go 8-8, or if they go 8-8 or worse this year, they will be drafting a quarterback with one of the top 10 picks in next year's draft.
You heard it here first. Go ahead and wrap up the NFL. In short, players get paid way too much. Quarterback position battles are a bitch, and
Preseason's stupid.
Yeah, and preseason's stupid. Official prediction: football tackling batter's box by 2018.
What does that mean?
That means you can't. It's just like a batter's box in baseball. You know, they throw them right at the. You can't go above the tits, below the knees. That's where your tackling batter's box is going to be. You're going to start seeing that on TV. Like they're going to freeze frame the hit. They're going to see if you're making first contact in this box.
A lot of players consider it dirty if you hit them below the knees nowadays, and if you hit them above the neck. So I guess there really is kind of a batter's box already.
But now it's going to be official.
From what you're talking about. All right. Well,
So, going on to college football. We have some game of the weeks that we all picked, ones that we think is some of our favorite games. We'll go over a couple of other extra stuff, and then we have our own upsets of the week, and then we'll wrap it up with my hashtag worst game of the week.
I bet everybody's excited about that.
Oh, it's going to be the best part of this.
Long
Best installment.
hashtag.
Yeah. Hashtag WGOTW.
And just a reminder to all you folks at home, we are a new podcast, so I know we were talking about college football earlier, then went away from it, and are now going back to it, but we'll get it together sooner or later. Don't worry.
We're still trying, figuring things out. So, Danny, game of the week, who do you have?
Game of the week. We're jumping right into that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, game of the week. I have the game of the week that nobody else should even question. Nobody should have picked anything else. It's Florida State at Bama. It's 2 top 5 teams.
They play this week?
Yeah, only Saturday at 8 o'clock. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe it's at the Falcons' new stadium.
Game 1.
All right, Bama is a 7-point favorite coming into this game. It's hard to root against Alabama in the regular season. It is a top 5 versus top 5. It's really about who prepared better in the offseason. We don't know much about either team at this point. Alabama lost a ton on defense. They returned Bo Scarborough and Jalen Hurts on offense. And they have Calvin Ridley on the outside, but he didn't have as great of a year last year as I expected him to. Florida State's got Derwin James, who everybody's super excited about. If he can stay healthy, it'll be an interesting game on the defensive side of the ball for both teams.
So who do you have?
I got a low-scoring game. I'm thinking Bama's going to take it probably in the range of 21-17, 24-20, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
High 30s, low 40s type of game. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I think the only way it is a blowout is if Bama comes out really strong and Florida State's just not ready. I don't really see a blowout in the other direction.
So for my game, we try to pick different games for our games of the week. So I took the other obvious one. Our guest stars were left with the scraps. So they'll talk about some other games that are there.
In the future, we promise we can pick the same game of the week and upsets of the week. But this week we just decided to make sure everybody had a different one for filling time.
Yeah, we don't want to repeat ourselves.
Yeah.
So I had the Florida-Michigan game. Both of them, not until today anyways, revealed who their starting quarterback is. We did find out that Florida has Felipe Franks starting, which I'm a huge fan of.
Ooh.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's going to be starting for Florida. We're going to see how he does. It's going to be an interesting game because Michigan, like we've talked about, only returning 5 starters, basically a new team there. So you're going to have a very new team versus a team with a newish defense that I still think will be pretty solid against a unknowingly stable offense. We don't know how they're going to do.
Don't forget about those 10 suspensions.
And don't forget about the 10 suspensions. Losing a couple star players for that. I think Florida's game plan was to just start as many people as Michigan's returning. We're doing a pretty good job. Still plenty of time left to get some more people suspended by Saturday. So we'll see what happens. Keep bringing the marijuana over to Florida. But yeah, we do have a lot of returners on offense. If Felipe Franks can, get his shit together, throw the ball, make some accurate passes, we might have a good game. What, Frank?
We?
What?
You got a mouse in your pocket?
What did I say?
He just talked about how you keep saying we.
Oh. They...
Sorry, continue.
Please don't.
So at the end of the
Don't
day...
listen to these idiots. This is our podcast.
So at the end of the day...
Fuck you.
I'm leaving that in. At the end of the day, Florida has an SEC defense. It's Florida. It's Florida.
What does that mean? SEC defense? What does that mean? Michigan has a Big Ten offense. There you go. Problem solved.
Not as good as a Florida defense. Anyways, they have a Big Ten offense that has how many starters returning to it?
How many starters does Florida have returning on defense?
I don't know, like 7.
No. They have about 5. Which
Close
is
enough.
Michigan's got about 4 returning on offense. It's not a big difference.
Yeah, I still take Florida's defense over that offense, though.
That's fine. We'll see it play out on Saturday, but an SEC defense is not a good reason. That doesn't tell us anything.
Historically, Florida's defense has been pretty solid. I don't think that's going to change.
That's fine if you say Florida's defense, but an SEC defense, just because of the conference they're in, Vanderbilt's defense ain't that good. They're an SEC defense.
You're right. Florida's defense should still pose a pretty good game. Historically, Florida's defense has been pretty solid. I don't think they're going to lose too much ground from last season. So it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game, in my opinion. I don't think our offense is going to, come out guns a-blazing. So I'm predicting something around the world of, kind of a 24-17, maybe a 14-10 even.
Wow.
That's the low end. The high end, I would say, would be 27-20 kind of game.
14-10.
Yeah, you could go that route if it's messy. I don't think that'll happen. If our offense is actually pretty stable and our defense can stay off the field a little bit, not get too tired out by the fourth quarter, it might be a little bit different. But, also to the same point, if our offense is actually pretty decent, we will probably score more and it might be a higher scoring game. So we could see the 30s, who knows. But I am going to say, I am a Florida fan, so I'm going to say Florida pulls this one out. I can definitely see Michigan winning, but I'm rooting and hoping for Florida. I think Florida will win.
I will say just real quick, I am interested to see how Felipe Franks plays against a Michigan defense that's not going to be very bad. They're going to be talented. They're any team that's that caliber that can recruit at this level is going to have talented players on their defense, and this kid's starting his first game up against a high-level defense like that. I'm interested to see how that plays out. If it's a 14-10 game, I think a lot of people are going to come away disappointed, but I think, like you said, it could very well end up that way. We'll see how it goes. For betting purposes, Michigan is favored by 3.5. That's kind of what you would expect at a neutral site game.
And I will say, if Florida wins, it's because their defense scores at least one score.
Oh, okay.
Bold prediction. Put that one down. Count it. Joe, what do you got?
My game of the week is actually in somewhat a small upset. I have West Virginia over Virginia Tech.
Ooh, a scathing game.
The thing is that both teams lost significant players last year. Both teams are not teams that you see in the national spotlight a whole lot, but it is an intriguing Game 1 matchup, Week 1 matchup for a non-conference scheduled game. I think it's going to be interesting to see how West Virginia does with Will Grier at the helm, junior quarterback, transferred from Florida after his freshman year when he got suspended after 6 games for using an illegal performance-enhancing, it was like a
steroids.
Medicine. Yeah, it was a medicine thing that he took that was not allowed. Anyway, transferred out. Until that point, he had 1,200 yards passing, 10 touchdowns in the first 6 games. They were 6-0. The kid showed some promise there at Florida. I think he's going to do well on a passing offense at West Virginia. He's got some tools coming back. They returned their 1,000-yard rusher, Justin Crawford, from last year. Their number 3 and number 4 receivers are coming back. They're still young, and I think it's going to provide West Virginia with another strong year offensively. Virginia Tech, big question mark here with them is they lost their 4-year starter in Gerard Evans and their number 1 receiver. So they got to replace a quarterback and their top receiver. It's going to be interesting to see how they can replenish that, especially now. Personally, I have West Virginia winning that game, and I think it'll be a one to watch, and I think it's going to be fun, and it'll come down to the end.
Yeah, it's a big year for Justin Fuentes, the coach of Virginia Tech. He did lose Gerard Evans. I don't believe he was a 4-year starter. I know he declared early and didn't get drafted. But Will Grier, West Virginia is interesting. Rumor has it they're going to be running some option this weekend, so that'll be fun to watch. And just so everybody, a little fun fact, we all pick neutral site games except for Frank. But we'll get to his in a moment.
Technically neutral site.
Yeah.
Take it away, Frank. What do you got?
I got Tennessee versus Georgia Tech. I know technically Georgia Tech is in Atlanta, but they're not playing at Georgia Tech. They are game 2 of the newly Atlanta Chick-fil-A Dome.
Yes.
This game's got a lot of unknowns as well. They both have yet to announce their quarterback. Georgia Tech's got to replace Justin Thomas, who was probably the staple of that kind of triple option. Pretty good arm to go with the speed and intelligence to run that offense. he'll be tough to replace. I believe that Matthew Jordan will be your starter for Georgia Tech. He started the one game that Justin Thomas missed, and he was able to pull out the victory against Virginia Tech last year. For Tennessee, I think Jarrett Garantano will be their starting quarterback. I believe Tennessee will start Jarrett Garantano, a redshirt freshman with good mobility and a nice strong arm, which I believe will fit the pieces that they have coming back. But I think the big play will come in from their special teams with Evan Berry back there taking kicks. I think he'll make a big play to help out the newly put together offense, and I think that Tennessee will find a way to pull out the victory in a most likely hostile New Georgia Dome.
He put Jones that job.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I have no idea what's going to happen. You got an option team, they're always hit or miss, and then you got Tennessee coming off, one of their more up and down years and losing Josh Dobbs. So this one could go either way for me.
So now we're going to move on to our upsets of the week that we all chose, and I'm taking Maryland over Texas. What was Texas' record last season?
5-7.
Thank you. And they're ranked, so I'm going to have this one as an upset. Maryland sophomore quarterback Pigham, as I like to call him. I don't really know. Pigham, I guess, but I like Pigham better. It's a funny last name. He's taking the helm. It is a young team. I think they're going to be ready to make a statement. I think this is a good opportunity for them to take off an undeserving but still ranked team. This would be a good start to their season. Texas has Michelle, who's predicted to return to quarterback as a sophomore. He did struggle with turnovers last season, had 11 picks with a 60% completion percentage. They don't have a lot of running back depth. All they really have as a running back is Chris Warren III, who has a history of injuries, so that could pose a problem. So I think Texas will struggle with a new culture installed by a new staff, where key players should have been focusing on improving in the offseason. They were splitting time getting better and learning the new philosophies and the plays of the coaching staff. What do you have to add to that, Danny?
Not much. I think, I like the balls on this pick because Texas is an 18.5 point favorite. So it's quite a pick to start the year off. But I do agree that I think Maryland covers the 18.5 point spread. I just don't see
But they were
any.
5-7 last year.
I don't see any way that they're going to win this game, even though Texas was 5-7 last year and does not deserve to be ranked for the record. My upset, and I'm just going to preface this by saying I don't think there are going to be any major upsets this week. I don't think any top 25 teams are going to fall to any not top 25 teams. But that's just my opinion. I took California at North Carolina. North Carolina is an 11 point favorite. They lost Mitch Trubisky. They don't have a starting quarterback yet. They haven't named any of their 3 potential starters. California starting Ross Bowers, who also, he came in as the number 13 ranked pocket passer in 2015, but he hasn't started a game yet. So we don't know what we're going to get from him. Cal, with their pass-heavy offense, I think they can put up a lot of points on this defense, and North Carolina, if they're not ready, if they don't have a quarterback, they make the wrong selection to start the game, I don't think they're going to come out on top. All right, Joe, who you got?
I went an interesting route here. I have Wyoming over Iowa.
Boo!
Go boys.
Hop on the wagon.
Disclaimer, Josh Allen's not as good as you think he's going to be.
He's better.
Jesus. Okay. No, he's not. No, he's not. I have no doubt that he has pro potential, but I do not think that he's going to lead Wyoming to any sort of greatness this year. And they're certainly not going to beat a Big Ten defense in Iowa.
What is it?
What's a Big Ten defense, Danny? What is a Big Ten defense?
For all of you not watching, I stared right at Jake while I said that. But I just don't think they're going to come out and play well against a defense that's going to be much better than anything else they see all year.
The thing is about Wyoming, I did get to see Josh Allen come out and play last year against San Diego State, and that kind of really stood out to me, is that comeback and that they had. And I'll preface this whole analysis with saying Wyoming is not a team that's going to threaten anybody. And I'm not trying to say that Wyoming is going to reach greatness because they have this quarterback. But however, I do think that he could provide an upset to a major team and could catch them off guard. I think Josh Allen could potentially, like you said, has some pro skills, and I think that they could repeat a little bit of what they did last year and also build on it. And to start off the year with an upset over Iowa would be a huge step in that direction.
In my humble opinion, he just doesn't have the pieces around him. But, everybody's got their upset pick, so let's see what Frank has.
I've got Middle Tennessee against Vanderbilt. This one's at the Blue Raiders' house. Last year, the game ended in a Vandy victory at home, 47-24. They ran at will when they wanted to. Have 5 rushing TDs, and mostly behind Ralph Webb with his over 200 yards rushing. They have stock still coming back. Last year he threw for close to 400 yards, and I think he can do that again against an SEC defense. And I think as long as their defense can slow down that rushing attack, that they could pull the upset against the Commodores and take down an SEC opponent week 1.
Dude, this is Vanderbilt's year. We're going to take the East.
For the record, Frank was the only smart one out of all of us. He took a home team in his upset pick. We all took road teams, which usually doesn't bode well for us. But, Frank took a home team that was, their 3-point underdogs. Real ballsy pick there, Frank.
Hey, like you prefaced yourself. I also don't see major upsets,
right.
But it's an upset.
Yeah.
An upset's an upset.
That's true.
And I mean, they are playing an SEC team.
Yeah,
we'll try that again.
Yeah. So before I get into the most exciting installment of this podcast, worst game of the week, Danny, how about you do one of your lists and talk about some of the other not important games in week 1?
Okay, we've got 5 mediocre games in week 1.
Part B? Week 1, Part B?
I'm sorry, I'm not calling it week 0, and I'm not going to call it 1A. I'm just going to pretend like it doesn't exist from this point on. That first week didn't happen. USF's got 11 games this year.
That's 0th week.
And that's 0th week, yes. Whatever. Anyway, because of where we're located, Florida International at UCF makes the list this week. UCF 17-point favorites. Should be a romp. We'll see what happens under Scott Frost in his 3rd year? Second year, damn it. Scott Frost's 2nd year. My personal favorite game this week is NC State at South Carolina. NC State's favored by 5. I think they win by double digits. Will Muschamp, I think this is going to be his last year at South Carolina. I think maybe a 4-8 year for them. I think people got a little too excited about his 6-7 year last year. And NC State's going to dominate that defensive line.
But it's an SEC defense.
Yeah, great. We know how I feel about that. So, third up, because of our location again, we have Stony Brook at USF. USF really scheduling the tough opponents this year. San Jose State and Stony Brook, an FCS school. Hopefully they don't go down 16-0 in this one like they did last week, but I predict another 20-plus point win. Fourth up, we have BYU versus LSU. We talked about it a little bit earlier. BYU really unimpressive in week, whatever the hell you want to call it. LSU comes in at 16.5-point favorites. Yesterday they were 14-point favorites, so a lot of people putting money on LSU this week. They play Saturday night in Houston.
I think that did that get moved to Louisiana?
I'm not sure where the game's going to be played. It doesn't really matter. You could play it in Utah for all we care. LSU's still going to run away with this one. And then Texas A&M at UCLA. This was a great game to start the year last year. Josh Rosen's back for UCLA, Texas A&M. Both coaches on the hot seat. Sunday game, 7:30 p.m. I got to take the Bruins in this one with Josh Rosen healthy. Now on to your
worst game of the week. So this installment of the worst game of the week is where I pick the two. Usually it's the two teams with the worst record. Take two of the poorer teams that are matching up during the current week, pin them together, give them the spotlight that they deserve, and see which one.
But let me just preface his worst game of the week. I know that he has Illinois in his worst game of the week this week. That is the best opponent USF will play in their non-conference this year. Schedule some real games.
You could feel Danny's feelings towards USF. Anyways, so I have Ball State at Illinois. Ball State last season went 4-8. Illinois went 3-9. Illinois is 6.5-point favorites. Ball State ended 2016 on a 5-game losing streak. Quarterback Riley Neal had a 61% completion, 13 touchdowns, and 12 picks. Pretty solid stuff. 6.4 yards per attempt. Defense held opponents. Get this one, Danny. Their defense held opponents to under 30 points only 4 times last season.
And which team was that?
That is Ball State.
Yeah, Ball State out of the MAC. They're
Only 4 times did people score under 30. They only played one ranked team last year, which was Western Michigan. Which, I mean, were they really ranked? Come on.
They were. They were 13-0.
They got slaughtered by Western Michigan. So Illinois ended 2016. Their last 5 games 1-4. Their defense also held opponents to under 30 points last season only 4 times, but 5 games their opponents scored 40 points or more on them. So their defense isn't looking so hot either. Quarterback Jeff Jones was a backup last year, 38 of 94 with 4 touchdowns and 5 picks. 70% of field goals were made last year on this team. Not very good. They played 4 ranked teams to their credit: Western Michigan, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. But with that, I'm going to give Illinois the win. They did have a harder schedule last season, so they've seen some tougher teams. Their quality of wins were better than Ball State, the ones that they did win. I think it'll be a high-scoring game because of their crappy defenses, but Illinois will take the W.
With the Big Ten defense.
With whatever that is.
Yeah, with whatever that is. And as we wrap up the show this evening, I just want to give everybody a reminder. Every Thursday, the 4 that you heard tonight, plus Travis, we all give our predictions for the NCAA games and the NFL games that coming weekend. So if you have any games you'd like to shout out to us, we do use the spread of each game that you can find on ESPN. So if you have any games you want us to talk about on a podcast, or if you have any predictions you want to send us, tweet it at us, or put it on our Facebook, and we'll talk about it on the podcast.
Or drop a comment below if you're on YouTube. Any way you want to get to us, we're all open ears. We have 0 comments so far, so we're waiting for them. Please. Anyways, wrapping it up for Backyard Sportscast. I'm Dirty Jake, here with me, co-host Danny Dishner, Dub Dish. We got Joe Campoamor here and Frank Ambrosino. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for having us.
It was a fun time. I think I had a lot of lulls this time around. Hopefully our jokes weren't too racy for you guys. And thanks, guys, for listening. I'll see you guys next week.
Now get out.